Today we are going to start with speaking with one of my daughters. Her name is Vicky, and we're going to be discussing her feelings about our, well, not so recent cruise trip to Mexico. So without further ado, here's Vicky. Say hi, Vicky.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Vicky, and yeah, talking about our cruise to Mexico.
Right. So we're not going to give out her age. Let's just say she's a teenager, so she's between 13 and 18. Want to give her a little bit of privacy there. So we did do a 3-day trip on Carnival to Ensenada, Mexico. Now I want to kind of get your opinion on some of the things that a teenager will want to know about. Like, what would you say to your friends who are nervous about or the activities that might be on board? Like, Club O2 was a club you were in, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Club O2. Go ahead.
All right, so I spent most of my time in Club O2, mainly because most activities are typically 18 plus, because of like the content, or even 21 plus because of the amount of alcohol they serve. But
and the content,
yeah. But in Club O2, I don't know, on the first night it was just to get to know everybody, and the club director had brought sodas in as well, and we just kind of sat around in a circle talking to each other, figuring out what state everybody was from. It was pretty fun, and I found out there was a couple people who lived generally close to where I did too. I know on the second night, we didn't do too much on the second night. We were gonna have karaoke, but most people didn't show, so we just had like a game night with Just Dance instead. And he had smoothies. The club director had brought smoothies for everybody from place also on the cruise.
So moving on a little bit, or maybe diving a little bit more into Club O2, do you feel like it was a good amount of activities, or a good place for teens as far as being stuck on a boat with your parents? Like,
well, the thing with Club O2 is, though we had an activity schedule, he would gather all of us in the room about 10 minutes before and ask us if we wanted to do it or not. If we didn't want to do it, then he'd just look at us and go, okay, choose something.
Okay, so it's more like teen.
Yeah.
Teen. You guys were able to make a choice. It was like teen led.
Yeah.
More than. Okay.
He was just kind of there to look over everybody.
Okay.
I know it's different from Camp Ocean, which one of the people in Club O2, their sibling was in Camp Ocean and was just a bit too young to be pushed into O2.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really strict with the activity schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they didn't really get much of a say so on what they did.
Okay, and so as far as any of the activities that were on board that were maybe 18 plus, I mean, kids can get in because there was an activity, or there was a little show that was going on, which was the Love and Marriage show. That 18 plus was kind of a loose requirement, and so Vicky did join myself and her father at Love and Marriage show. Aside from some of the things that happened in that show, overall, what did you think about it?
It was actually kind of entertaining to watch, as I was under 18. There's a couple of questions that I was a bit shocked to hear them. Like, everybody in the audience is supposed to be an adult. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be honest.
Some sexually explicit
yeah.
things that, or suggestive. I won't say explicit because it really wasn't explicit.
No, suggestive, but it was like, I got it because I'm in high school.
Yeah, we tend to ran into each other. You would think on that ship that large we wouldn't run into each other as much as we did, but we did.
It's just they happen to have all the activities that are geared for people like my age near the ones geared for adults, so parents can keep a closer eye on their children. Mm-hmm. Which is why we ran into each other so often, except we ran into each other all 3 nights at mm-hmm. the pizza place.
Yeah, we did. Another thing I did not really allude to in any of the videos that we've had regarding that cruise is that you guys were given an allowance. So the way it works as a parent, you can have your child on your spending account, and you provide them a certain amount of money to spend on board, be it the arcade, cherry on top, wherever they want to spend a little cash. And once they're out, and you have to authorize an additional amount. So without giving away the amounts that I authorized for my children, how did you feel about that system? Not necessarily how much you spent, because they spent it, but How did you feel?
I like the system just because I didn't have to constantly go locate my parents and ask them every time I wanted to spend something. I could just spend as much time as I wanted there, spend my money, and then leave. And if when I did run out, I tried to ask for more, but that didn't work. But then again, it was also their fault because they wrongly charged me for my own drink when they said they were going to pay for it. So technically, I had some more money left in my account.
But we did pay for that drink. She tripping. We paid for that drink. So, and they do have, it's kind of a fun thing. So, what did you feel about, because we did allow our children, there is a curfew for children who are under 18. Anyone under 18 needs to be back at the room by what, midnight? One. Okay.
They end all club activities at midnight, so you have more than enough time to get to your room at 1.
Right. And so, what was your curfew?
Mine was midnight unless the club was doing something past.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's a really reasonable curfew. You're out in the middle of the ocean at night. It's really dark. It's really windy. It's really cold.
Mm-hmm.
A mini golf club blew out of my hand because I just happened to be holding it wrong, and it just flew away. And I just looked, and I looked at my sister, and we went back down the stairs, and we had our dresses on for formal night, so it was kind of hard to get back down the stairs, maybe more so for her because she was wearing a more flowy dress. But, yeah, it was, a midnight curfew is pretty reasonable, so.
Right. And then we also purchased the chat option, so myself and Vicky were able to be in contact as much as we could, because, you're on the water, so sometimes it didn't work perfectly, but it worked well enough to keep us updated on where the girls were and where we were, and we got to have some quality time, and they got to go in room free. So overall, how do you feel? And then just a little piece about you being a person who gets motion sickness. How did you deal with that?
Okay, so on the first 2 days and nights, it was pretty fine. We weren't going too fast. Now there were a couple of times where I would just lose my footing, or I'd have to just stay still because the boat was moving a bit too much. But on the third night when we were going back, it was really bad. I guess we had hit really windy or shaky weather temperatures. I don't know what they're called. And the boat was rocking a lot. A lot of people were getting sick that night. I got sick as well, but while I was up in Club O2, the furniture was sliding across the room. Everything that wasn't bolted to the ground was sliding. So the table wasn't, but the metal chairs were. And obviously the the club director was perfectly fine with it. He works on the boat. A lot of the kids tapped out because they couldn't handle it. And we were one of the first people to tap out, but I saw somebody else on my way back to the room. So yeah, that last night was a doozy.
It was a doozy. We did feel it because we were in our cabin and waiting on the kids.
Motion sickness, I would recommend the patches if you're going on a shorter cruise where the weather isn't going to be as bipolar as it was. But if you know it's going to be a bit windy on your way back, or if you think they're going to be running behind schedule, or just as a good measure, get the
sea bands.
Yeah, because the patches would sometimes come off if there was enough wind, because that wind was strong.
Right.
And it caused a lot of issues. And on the last night, the patches just didn't work.
Okay. And as far as just being a good thing for teenagers, or just traveling with your parents on a cruise, would you want to do it again?
Yes.
Yeah. That was
I'm yes.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes, and no, that was fun to travel with my parents because I love these people a lot. I definitely love them a lot, but the only problem here is you're not 18.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things you are limited to.
That would be true.
And personally, I don't even think they enforce the 1 o'clock rule.
Not as much as you thought they would have.
I thought they would have been looking around for us. No, I told my mom that there was a club activity lasting pretty long. We ended up tapping out at 1:30, 2 o'clock. Because I was just tired and I was done with it, and my sister was bored. So we're walking down, and they're nobody cares. They're not coming after us for being out. Honestly, we both look older than we should. So.
That's true too, because you guys do look older than what you are, so that could have been a thing about it. But all in all, you would cruise again.
Yeah, I definitely would.
Mostly, after 21?
Mostly.
Okay. Alrighty.
Because
So go ahead.
I hate after that trip. I've learned very clearly I hate the smell of alcohol.
Uh,
I just hate it.
yeah,
I
there was a
couldn't.
lot of booze on it.
Yeah, I couldn't stand it. And like when I turned 21, I don't think I would do much drinking, just personally because I don't like the smell.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, it'll be fun to get a taste of cruising when you're like from middle school to mid high school age,
Mm-hmm.
just to like understand what you're going into,
Mm-hmm.
while you still have time to develop some preferences.
Mm-hmm.
Once you turn 21, I will go on another cruise
Mm-hmm.
to go explore a bit more.
Okay. That's perfectly fair. I am here with my daughter Vaughn. Say hey, Vaughn.
Hi.
And she is going to give you her perception of being on a cruise trip with your parents as a teenager. Again, she's from between the ages of 13 and 18, but she has a little bit of a unique twist on her view on the cruise because it was her birthday. Yay! So I'm not going to say what age she turned, but
I turned old.
you turned old?
Yes, I turned old. Yeah.
Well, it was her birthday. It was a last minute birthday trip because another birthday was canceled due to I'm sorry, it was canceled due to illness. That thing with the 19. So we ended up going on a cruise and it happened to be the best time with her birthday. What about the Club O2? Can you talk a little bit about how you felt with Club O2?
So Club O2 is a group for teenagers from I forgot what ages.
I believe it is 15 to 17.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So 15 to 17. Um, Very fun. So we had there's always a director in there. The kids get to pick their own things in that club. It's great. They had gaming systems. They had Injustice 2. They had Minecraft. Did I mention they had Injustice 2? I really love that game and I don't have it. So it was really fun. They had a foosball table. They had Uno. They had a ball that we just kept throwing at each other. It was great.
Cool.
We didn't actually injure anybody.
Okay, that's good. Nobody
yeah.
got injured. Okay, and so what was the overall atmosphere in Club O2 like? Because there are a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds on cruise ships, and sometimes people are concerned about how I'm just going to be playing with how a minority would feel on a cruise ship. So get into that a little bit.
For Club O2, I saw a vast amount of minorities on it. Actually, yeah, the club director himself was a part of that group as well. We love we love him. I'm not going to say his name for confidentiality, but we love him. And I met this other guy. Again, not going to say his name, confidentiality. Who I met because he was playing foosball, and the day prior, I believe, no, that day, which was the first day of the cruise, he ended up messing up his ankle, his wrist, some sort of way, and and I just called him old man. He's not old. We love him. Okay, he's kind of old, but we love him. So he was like, nah, because I'm going to beat you on this foosball table. So we ended up playing foosball, and I beat him very easily. And we started bonding. We started gaining a friendship since then, and it was really fun, and I loved it.
And do you still keep in contact with some of those people you met on the cruise ship?
We well, more or less, because
okay.
the chat kind of did die until my sister put in a revival chat card that got the people talking again. It's literally a card that says, use this card when chat is dead. So the chat isn't dead, but it's not breathing correctly.
Well, it's not the way it was when you guys
No, it
first got
wasn't.
off the ship.
Because we
Now, let's talk about the arcade because you guys did have a spending allowance.
and Vicky
We're talking about you.
absolutely-
We had a spending allowance that the girls were given, and we worked that out before we even got on the ship. So, how do you think that worked for you as far as having your own access to money if you wanted to purchase anything on board?
I thought it was interesting. I did have a good amount on my card, but I had more when we went to Ensenada because I wanted more. But
Let me explain that. So, what we decided was there was a total amount of money each child would get as their spending money to keep us within budget. And they had a choice to break it out any way they wanted to between their onboard spending and their spending in port. And so she chose to have most of her money available while in port, whereas Vicky chose to have most of her money available while on the ship. Okay,
Mhm.
Go ahead.
So I didn't have as much Vicky. I didn't have as much Vicky. Oh no, I didn't have as much money as Vicky did on the ship. So the arcade, it was really fun for me though. I ended up playing on. There was a punching game where you had to punch like a thing. I don't know what it was called. It's like a punching dummy. I don't know. And I this is one of my favorite key moments of the ship because I wanted to play it and some older men beat me to it. So I waited patiently. And when it was my turn, I saw what they got on the board. It was something around 80. That was the amount. That was the points they had gotten. So I was like, I'm gonna try and punch it. So I ended up doing it, and I got a 94. And
Good girl.
they were just like, "How did you do that?" I'm like,
What, if any, do you have any drawbacks for teenagers on a cruise ship? Like,
"You can't do much with. You can do a lot without your parents, but you can't do a lot without your parents. If you know what I mean."
no,
You
please
don't?
explain.
I will explain. I realized I sounded a bit weird. So you can do a lot of things like hang out with your friends if your parents allow that stuff. Hang out with your friends, go places, eat out. Great. But like no matter what happens, you do have to go to your parents and they still have to make sure you're okay, which is great. I love that my parents love me to make love people. Let me rephrase that sentence. I'm glad that people do are like, hey, where are you? I want to make sure you're safe. But then again, if your parents want to go somewhere and you want to go somewhere else, let's say you're the only child, most of the time, most of the time they're like, no, you're gonna come with us. It depends on the age group of that kid.
Okay.
So you can do a lot without your parents, but then you can't.
Okay, you are limited a little bit
Yes.
in what you can and cannot do. Like, we wanted to have dinner together as a family in the main dining room each night, but for the most part every day the girls were allowed to go and do them, and we would just meet up at a certain time. So we had breakfast in the morning as a family, and then we had dinner as a family.
Mhm.
That was it. Between that time they could do what they wanted to. After dinner, me and dad went and did our thing, they went and did their thing, and they had a curfew to come back at midnight unless there were longer activities at Club O2. And quite frankly, they were roaming the ship and having a good time. I
They were.
assume you were.
But the only downfall is that Vicky was like my second mom because I always had to be by her side because, well, I just had to be. She's my older sister, and no matter what, she got to be with her.
Yeah. So that is a requirement that they did stay together, but we did give them a good amount of
Leeway.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to say, would you cruise again? Would you cruise again as a teenager?
As a teenager, 100%. As an
Cool.
adult, 50%, because the cost.
Thanks a lot for watching the channel and listening to the Girls Review Club O2. Now, if you're a first-time cruiser and you're traveling with your kids, look at this video because it's going to tell you the top mistakes that first-time cruisers make when traveling with kids. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great day.